Hi everyone, welcome to Making Things with String. This is my crafty YouTube channel. My name is Kate, my pronouns are she, her, and I am coming to you from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. Welcome to my new Flosstube video. Yeah, it's been about a month since my last video. And I am just going to do a regular Flosstube update for you. I'm thinking about doing a mid-year whip parade since it is whip parade season. I've been watching a lot of whip parades, as I'm sure many of you are. And so I am planning to do one of those sometime either this month in July or in August because my whip parades in the middle of the year are a little bit different. I like to do like a full update of all my stitching from the last mid-year whip parade, and that's because this August will be my second full year on Flosstube. So last year in August, I took the opportunity to kind of use my whip parade, mid-year whip parade, as like an update on everything I had stitched since my first video. And I'd like to keep doing that. So not just showing you all of my current whips, but talking about everything that I showed in my last whip parade video, where those things currently are, everything I started and finished since that last video, and the whips that I am still working on. So that's in progress. It's a lot of work. But I am here to tell you what I have been doing crafty-wise since my last video at the beginning of June. So today's July 2nd, so it's been almost exactly a month since that last video. So I've got two finishes to show you. One of them was a June finish. One of them is technically a July finish. I finished it this morning. And I also had two starts in June. One of them was one of these finishes. So let me show you that. So this is June's Stitch for Pride piece. The artist that this is inspired by is Frida Kahlo, who I think many people are familiar with. And there's actually a lot of, as Dee was saying, this is a pattern, by the way, by Dee's 20 Stitches, a monthly pattern that's releasing every month. Each month is based on a different LGBTQ plus artist, and this stitch along includes a beautiful little motif for you to stitch based on that artist's work and some learning about that artist as well. So this is definitely an artist that I have seen before and was aware of, and yeah, really love this cute little piece. Like some of the other months, this isn't like a direct representation of Frida's art, but interpretation of it with her little monkey and a bird and some floral pieces. So this was really fun to stitch. So this piece is stitched on a 36 count linen from the sewing shop, and the colorway is called Avocado Toast. And I used the called for DMC for this one, which is DMC 742. So a nice sort of golden yellow, one of my favorite colors. And yeah, it's looking really great. I love this little piece. It was a lot of fun to stitch, and relatively quick as well. I think I stitched that up in about 2 days. Let's see what else I know about this piece. Yeah, stitched up at the end of June in 2 days total. Yeah, so that's my first finish for the month of June. Actually, it was the only finish technically in June, because the next finish that I have to show you was done today, like I said. So let's move on to that. All right, so my second finish of the month of this video, again, this is a finish from this morning in July. and the piece is Toy Shop by Dimensions. And let me just give you a look at it here while I talk a little bit about it. So this is the finished piece. I've been showing this in videos since February this year, and I finally finished it. I finally finished it today. So I'm stitching this as a part of the Hello Dimensions SAL, which is being hosted by Hello from Liz Matthews. The piece that is officially being stitched for that SAL is actually, I believe, the Coffee Shop, but I had this Toy Shop pattern, so I've been stitching that. However, I've been trying to finish up some cross stitch patterns to decrease my ever-increasing whip count. So I finished this up early. So the SAL is still ongoing if you're interested, but I am now done. So let's get some stats on this piece. So I started Toy Shop on February 2nd this year, and I finished it today, July 2nd. So that's not too shabby at all. I stitched on it a total of 18 stitching days, as logged by my Notion tracker. So it took me 18 days to stitch. Yeah, so I made a lot of progress on this. What I would like to do is perhaps show you a little clip of what this looked like the last time that you saw it a month ago in my previous video, just to give you an idea of how much I have progressed since then. And I also have a little clip of the piece before I started putting in the back stitch and the French knots. So I'll play that here as well. So yesterday I finished the full cross and half stitches on this Toy Shop Dimensions kit, and I wanted to get a little shot of what it looks like before the back stitching. So I have actually back stitched that top section here, Toys, Gifts, Games. But other than that, no other back stitches have been put into it. I really like that before and after back stitching comparison. So this is what the piece looks like without the back stitching, and I'm going to start working on the back stitching today. And now some close-up footage of what this piece looks like with the French knots and the back stitch. So it's looking really, really cool. I knew that there was snowflake French knots all throughout this piece, but I hadn't realized that there were these yellow and gold French knot baubles on the Christmas tree and on the two wreaths. And so I decided to stitch those first. I'll maybe try and bring this up to show you what I'm talking about here as well as I talk about it. So those are a bit chunkier. The ones on the tree and the wreath are a bit chunkier than the snowflakes around the rest of the piece. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is just simply that those French knots have 5 strands of thread in them, compared to 3 for the snowflakes. But another thing is that I did the French knots a little bit differently for the snowflakes versus the lights on the tree and the wreaths. So I did the tree and the wreaths first. And when I do a French knot, I wrap my thread around my needle 2 full times. This is based on tutorials that I've seen about French knots. And so I did a few of them. They were looking pretty chunky. I liked the way that they look, but I remembered that these Dimensions kit have instructions, in the chart about how to do a back stitch. Maybe I'll get that as well. Sorry, not how to do a back stitch, but how to do a French knot. So you can see here in these French knot directions, it looks as though they're only wrapping the thread around the needle once and then turning it over and putting it back through the fabric and tightening up the knot and pulling it through. So I thought, that's not how I do back stitches, or I keep saying back stitches. That's not how I do French knots. So all of these white snowflakes are done that way. And they look good. And I think that they look better and more consistently better than my French knots usually do. So I think, you know, that other method of doing a French knot, it may have been like an embroidery video that I watched to figure out how to do that or something, or it may just be that there's different kinds of French knots that require different amounts of wrapping around the needle. But I guess what I learned is that you can do it with just one twist around the needle, and that tends to look a little bit neater and more consistent in my experience. So I just thought I would share that with you. Another thing that I thought I would share is the leftover materials that I have for this piece. So here's my little floss card that I make for myself for the threads that I'm currently working with, and there's a whole bunch of those left. But then on the floss cards as well, there was a lot of leftover thread, as you can see. And then there was also this little loop of the gold metallic thread. So I've got quite a lot of materials left from this kit. Definitely not enough to stitch it again, but a lot of floss. So I thought I would show that and just talk about it a little bit. I'm wondering, what do you do when you stitch something like this and you have a bunch of leftover thread? This isn't DMC thread, so I don't know. I couldn't just like put it in with my collection or anything like that. So yeah, what would you do with this stuff? I was thinking of maybe making some friendship bracelets with some of it, because they're nice long lengths of thread, so I should be able to make some friendship bracelets with it. But yeah, I was wondering as I pondered this, what other people do with their kit leftovers. Do you chuck them? Do you repurpose them? What do you do? How do you take this material and do something with it? So share that with me if you would like below. So those are my two finishes for this video. Next up, we'll talk about my works in progress. So stuff that you've seen before that I'm still working on. And first up, as usual, and as included in pretty much every one of my videos, is Needs No Paint, which is a chart by Heaven and Earth Designs. The art that it's based on is by Jill Clare. And this is a piece that I am stitching and trying to finish this year. So it's a full coverage chart. My goal is to stitch around 4,600 stitches per month on this. So here is some footage of what this piece looked like last time in my last video. At that point, I had completed 60.2% of the pattern, or a total of 50,481 stitches. And here is what it is looking like today. So this represents 66.24% complete, or 55,507 stitches, which means I got a total of 5,026 stitches this month, which is great. I beat my goal for the month, a little bit ahead of my goal. And therefore I stitched a total of about 6% of this chart. And so that represents kind of this area right here. Things are going a little bit easier and quicker in this section because the vast majority of this is one color. It's DMC 01. So those sections go by really fast. So I've been spoiled a little bit with that. Makes for some really easy stitching. I am stitching this with the called for DMC on a 28 count even weave, 2 threads over 1 fabric thread, tent stitch or half cross. And yeah, this is what it's looking like. I wanted to point out something about this piece that I had decided to do in my last video but forgot to mention. So in this piece, there's lots of these sort of like wispy hair bits, and a lot of the time you do not stitch in behind the wispy hair bits. So this is all blank fabric, and that's true within the wispy hair bits and between the wispy hair bits and the body. In the pattern, however, these stitches here in between this wispy hair bit and this wispy hair bit are stitched all with DMC 01, which is the color that I'm stitching a lot of the body of the horse with. And this gap here is not charted to be stitched in that same way. So I made the call to leave these stitches out for now to see what that looks like, because to me you can tell the difference between these stitches and the stark white background fabric, and I think it will look strange to have this part stitched because it's clearly not part of the horse's body, especially since this bit isn't stitched. So I'm gonna leave it and see how it looks after the fact. If I change my mind, I can always come back and stitch it. But for now, I'm leaving it out. And then the slight benefit of that is that it's slightly fewer stitches that I have to complete on the piece. So that's kind of a nice bonus too. So yeah, just wanted to mention that I decided to do that, and to mention that about this pattern as well, in case anybody is thinking about stitching it. That might be something you want to look out for. And this would be even more important if you used a background fabric that was something other than white, which you very well could do for this piece. Since it's not, the background isn't stitched, you could use a really cool background color fabric if you wanted to, something mottled and beautiful that complements the piece. But if you did that, then this would be stitched white, and I felt that was a little bit strange, so I left it out. Yeah, so that is my update on Needs No Paint for this month. And in July, I'll be going ahead and aiming to stitch another 4,600 on this, continuing to move over in this direction. So my next whip is another one that you saw last month. This one was the first time that I showed it was last month, because last month was the first clue drop for this piece. I'm talking about the Arctic Animals Club by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So this is a monthly club where the pattern releases once a month, and it's a whole bunch of cute Arctic animals. So I'll give you a look here at the footage from last time on what I had completed. I had completed all of Clue 1, but since then Clue 2 was released. And I have gone ahead and stitched Clue 2 as well. So we've got our Arctic foxes, our voles, and now we also have our walrus. So he's very cute and was a lot of fun to stitch. It took me 3 stitching days to work up that little walrus. One of them, I started it on the 20th of June, which was the day that Frosted Pumpkin had a Zoom chat for people who are completing this, and so I joined the Zoom chat and started stitching the walrus while hanging out in there, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then 2 more days after that and this was done, so not too bad at all. It's a lot of fun to stitch, on, just like most other Frosted Pumpkin pieces. It's very cute and easy, but not boring stitching. I am stitching this as a reminder on a piece of fabric that I dyed myself. It's a 25 count Zweigart fabric, and I dyed it using some charcoal and aquamarine Rit dye, and yeah, it is a 25 count. I'm stitching it with the called for DMC threads, and we're stitching this 2 threads over 2 fabric threads, so 2 over 2 for this piece. As you can see, I kind of did stitch that first piece in a hoop, but I stitched the walrus in hand. So yeah, pretty versatile with this fabric, what I'm able to do. So that was a lot of fun. looking forward to the next release. I love these critters so far. They're really cute. But they are all fairly neutral tones, so I'm interested to see. Some of the colors in this piece are very bright and vibrant, so I'm interested to see where those come in. It may just be that those are coming in the placards that name the animals. I've actually changed that a little bit about this piece. I decided to just backstitch the letters, the names of the animals, in the color that was called for in the pattern for the placard itself. So in the pattern, each of these words is surrounded by like a rectangle of stitching in this color, and then the word is backstitched in black. But I didn't necessarily love the look of those big heavy rectangles, and so I decided to try going about the pattern this way for now. Again, if I change my mind later and I think it would look better fully stitched the way it's called for, I can come back and pull out the back stitching and stitch it the way it's called for if I want to. Right, so the next WIP that I'm going to chat with you about is my 2 Quaker Sisters samplers piece. This is a pattern by Modern Folk Embroidery, and I have already started and finished the first half, the first of the 2 Quaker Sisters samplers, but I have been working on the second one lately. So here is some footage of what that second Quaker Sister sampler looked like the last time that you saw it, and here is what it's looking like now. I apologize, this fabric is very wrinkly. I had this in a hoop and I brought it with me to Niagara Falls. I traveled to Niagara Falls in June for a conference, and this was the one cross-stitch project that I brought with me to work on while I was there. Last time that I worked on this was at Stitch North in April, and so I made quite a bit of progress. Hopefully, as you can see, I did this whole motif, started this big motif over here, finished up this middle one. So yeah, it's looking really good. I'd say I'm getting close to 1/3 of the way done this piece. So I've stitched on this for 6 days this month, which is great because that means that the whip go square for this piece has been met. So yeah, I want to continue working on this though, and this is one of the pieces that I would like to try and finish before the end of this year. So this is something that I'm going to keep pulling out whenever I have a chance. Yeah. As a reminder, this is being stitched with Roxy Floss Co. materials. The fabric is a 32 count fabric called In the Shade. It's linen. And I am stitching this also with Roxy Floss Co. floss. The colorways are Kernel Mustard, which is this darker, deeper mustardy color, and Butterscotch is the lighter one. So yes, that is my progress on my second Quaker Sister sampler. Okay, so the last cross stitch WIP that I have to show you for today is a piece called Elemental Dragons Water by Ink Circles. I started this last month, and I'm stitching this along with my friends Judith and Jen from Jen's Fiber Web. So the 3 of us all started this piece last month. Here's some footage of what that piece looked like the last time that you saw it. And here is what it's looking like now. So I have stitched for a total of 4 days on this piece now. I'm trying to get 5 days done to fulfill WIP Go call for this. I'd say I'm about 25% complete at this point. This piece is so fun to stitch. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. And I think it's looking pretty cool. The fabric I've chosen here is a 36 count ARF linen. The colorway is called Euphoria. I got this from Pastime Pieces at Stitch North. It's really, really beautiful piece of fabric. And I am stitching this with some floss that I also got from Stitch North, but this is a Brin and Nettle floss. It's called Wreck House is the colorway. So yeah, really, really enjoying this. One strand of thread over 2 fabric threads on this 36 count. And this is another piece that I'm trying to finish by the end of this year, I believe. Like I said, I'm already almost 25% done. I think it's totally something that is finishable. So like this is the edge of the pattern, which means the other side of it is going to be about here, and it's square, so it probably pretty much fits right here, the whole thing. So yeah, it's a little bit smaller than I thought. I bought a lot more floss for this than was required. So I've got a lot of extra Wreck House floss. So we'll see what I end up doing with that. But yeah, I'm sure I'll find a great use for it. It's a really beautiful hand-dyed floss. I love Brin and Nettle floss so far. I've used it a couple times now. So yes, those are my water dragons. So like I said, that's it for my whips and my finishes for the video. For July, my plans are to stitch my 4,600 or so stitches on Needs No Paint as usual. I will have a new Stitch for Pride pattern to stitch as well. And I would, like I said, like to do one more day at least on water dragons for the purposes of Whip Go. I also will have a new Arctic Animals Club release sometime this month, so I will stitch that. And then this month, Ophelia, my Mirabilia piece, got called for Whip Go. And I have not stitched for 5 days on that, even though I did stitch on it in May. I didn't stitch more than 5 days. So I'm going to try and get Ophelia up to 5 days. So hopefully I'll work on her a little bit in July as well. The other Whip Go call was one that I had already completed. It was the Season's Greetings ornament by Teresa Kogut. So yeah, going to try and do Ophelia. I do have a crochet piece to tell you about, as well as you can go. Oh, okay. I do have a crochet piece to tell you about, as well as show some acquisitions later on after this section. But first, I would like to do a little shout out to my mom and dad, and as I have been doing, show a little update on their crafting progress as well. So as you saw in my last video, my mom is cross-stitching a modern folk embroidery piece. I think it's called Merry Christmas Village. Anyways, I'll put the picture up here. This is something that she bought and kitted up at Stitch North when we went in April. And I'll show you a reminder of where she was the last time that I talked about her project in my video. And I'll show an updated picture here of where she is now. So she's zooming along on this piece and will be done very soon, I'm sure. She's almost 3/4 of the way done, this cross stitch piece. And so that's really exciting. This is being stitched on a 28 count piece of Roxy Floss Co. linen. It's called Smooth Sailing, the colorway, a very rich navy blue, really, really beautiful. And she's also using Roxy Floss Co. thread. She's using Snowy Owl, and it's looking great. I also know that she had to buy an extra skein of Snowy Owl. She had to order an extra skein. And so you know that one single skein of floss can't travel on its own. So Mom did buy another piece of that fabric, which she loves, the same colorway and probably the same count, I think. And she also bought another modern folk embroidery pattern, Never Laugh at Live Dragons, I believe it is. I'll put a picture of it here. And yeah, she's going to stitch that as well on the blue fabric with the Snowy Owl, I believe, or maybe not Snowy Owl, but another like sort of white light thread on that dark blue linen. She's trying to make a collection of like blue and white cross stitch patterns to make a wall display of a bunch of different hung blue-ish cross stitch pieces, and so these two are gonna be part of that. So pretty cool. And also she said she might start 2 things at once, which is not typical for Mom. Normally she's a monogamous stitcher, but she did also purchase and kit up Una Owl at Stitch North, and so she's kind of wanting to start both Una Owl and the Never Laugh at Live Dragons modern folk embroidery piece. So that's an update on my mom stitching. And since my last video, Dad has finished another diamond painting as well. So here's a photo of that one. It's a Leonid Afromov painting. So I really like that one. It's pretty cool. He's currently working on another one that a friend of theirs gave to him, so he's doing it for her. And I've got a couple more diamond paintings for Dad, waiting until I go visit them next to bring over. So he's gonna have lots of diamond painting to do, hopefully. Okay, so let's talk about some yarny crafts. I haven't done any knitting. But in my last video, I showed you a Tunisian crochet dice bag that I was making for a friend of mine, Scott. And as promised, I did finish that and I gifted it to him, so I no longer have it. But I did take a video clip of the bag and me talking a little bit about it when I finished it. So I will insert that clip. Here is my finished cross-stitched Tunisian crochet dice bag. I made this on commission from a friend, my friend Scott. It says iron within, iron without, which is from Warhammer 40k. So he's going to use this to put his Warhammer dice in. So I used Tunisian crochet stitch and just made a big flat rectangular panel and then stitched this on there with some scraps of yarn that I had. Then I seamed up the back. I also crocheted a little bit up on the top here, and then I crocheted in the round, decreasing along the bottom to make the bottom of the bag. Try and open up the top here so it opens up nice and big, and it should actually even kind of stand up. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, Scott was really generous. I asked him basically just to cover the cost of the materials for that piece. I don't generally do commission work because there's not really like a reasonable price to charge considering the amount of time that it takes to do something like that. But I will make things for my friends because I'm crafting in my spare time anyways. And so, you know, I just wanted him to cover the costs of the materials, which was about $20. And he was kind enough to give me that $20 and also dropped off a few beer to go along with that. So I really appreciate that generosity, and I think he really enjoyed it. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned this in that little clip. If I did, I'll cut this out. But the saying that is cross-stitched on there, iron within, iron without, that is from Warhammer 40k, from the particular faction that he plays. And so the dice bag is for his Warhammer game. And I do believe he brought the dice bag with him to a tournament in Halifax to kind of show that off. So yeah, I'm all into nerdy gaming stuff, and it's really fun when my crafting and my gaming stuff gets to mesh together. So I was really glad. I don't play Warhammer myself, but I was glad to make that for Scott, so it was a lot of fun. For knitting and such plans. I don't have any plans to start anything new. I still have that like pair of socks that I was working on last time that I haven't finished. But what I think I'm going to go to if I go to knitting is going to be going back to my Radvent cardigan that I was knitting with my Advent yarn, my Hue Loco Oxide Fade Advent calendar from 2023. So I mean, it's too hot for sweaters right now, for cardigans right now, but by the time I'm done, it'll be fall again, and I would really love to have that off the needles and done. And it was a lot of fun to knit, so I'm gonna get back to my Radvent cardigan soon. So I want to spend the last little bit of the video talking about some acquisitions I've made. I don't usually spend a lot of time talking about this kind of thing, or at least I don't include it in every one of my videos. But I got some special things lately, so I'd like to show them to you. So first up, I received this cute little card from Kaylee of Kaylee Cross Stitch, and in it contains a nice little note to me, as well as some tiny stitching supplies. So I have a little piece of 56 count fabric here. I do believe it's an even weave, and some Auvera Soie Surfine 779, and a nice beading needle to go with this. So I actually received this a little while ago. I haven't started anything on it yet. As you may have gathered from the last couple videos, I'm trying to decrease my whips a little bit. So I might finish one or two more things before I get started on this, but I do think I know what I'm going to try stitching with this. So when you message Kaylee and request, she has like a form that you can fill out. If you go to her Instagram link tree, she has a form that you can fill out to be sent these supplies. And you get emailed a free pattern that you could use. I think it's cute, but what I think I will do instead is I'm going to stitch this freebie from Liz Matthews. It's a little Christmas freebie that I have downloaded, and I think it will be cute. Super tiny. So that's what I am planning to do with these materials, but I wanted to share them here, and I wanted to say thank you to Kaylee for sending these to me. It's a really cool thing that that Kaylee is doing, and I appreciate it quite a lot, and I'm excited to try and stitch this. I'm wondering, I think I can do this without magnification but we shall see. Definitely I'm going to need some good lighting. And so just to be clear, the idea here is that you are stitching 1/1 on this 56 count fabric. I've never stitched on 56 count fabric at all, let alone over 1. So it will be interesting. But you can check out Kaylee's Flosstube channel if you're interested to see this, because she does a lot of stitching like this, and it's very cute. I love seeing these tiny little stitch pieces, and it's actually really handy because sometimes you'll be stitching something that's going to be gigantic if you stitched it on a normal count of fabric over 2. So if you want something to be a little bit smaller, this is an option. So very cool. I also received a lovely little package from my friend Judith, who was getting rid of some patterns from her stash. So thank you so much, Judith, for sending these. Here we have a pattern called Midnight Watch by Blackbird Designs. I do believe this is my first Blackbird pattern, and I've seen this a lot in various Flosstube videos, and I just love this giant cat on top of the house silhouetted against the moon. I think it's super cute. I think I'll have a great time stitching this house as well. So yeah, really grateful to have this piece. Thank you so much, Judith, for sending it to me. Judith also sent me this little Country Cottage Needleworks Snowman's Cottage. Whoa. Let's focus in on that, please. not really wanting to. Maybe I can find a photo. Anyway, this is Frosty Forest, and I just think it's super cute. I've stitched a couple gingerbread houses from Country Cottage Needleworks, and so I am sure that this will be a lot of fun to stitch as well. She also sent me an Owl Forest embroidery pattern. I've never had one of these before. I don't have the photo here. Maybe I can find one online to put over top of this because I don't want to show the pattern, but it's one of the snail house patterns, and again, it's by Owl Forest Embroidery, and it is the pumpkin snail house. So this is super cute. I might actually look into purchasing the Owl Forest threads for this. Maybe, we'll see. But yes, thank you so much, Judith, for that lovely package. Oh, I do have some more haul. So this is stuff that I purchased. I actually made a trip to Charting Creations, which, as I found out at Stitch North, is actually located in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is where I live. So they're a mostly online shop, and I've definitely heard on various people's Flosstube channels, I've heard of Charting Creations before. And I do think in the past I've looked up cross-stitch shops in Halifax and saw Charting Creations listed, but it's listed like as an online shop, and it says that they don't have a physical space, but you can book an appointment. And so I thought, what the heck? I was actually meeting up with one of my very best friends from way back in grade 1. I've been friends with Julia since grade 1. And we were meeting up. She wanted to start cross-stitching again. It's something that she used to do, something she's been seeing me doing a lot. And so, yeah, we were going to hang out last week on Wednesday and get her started on a new project and stitch together. And so I suggested that we book an appointment at Charting Creations together to go get the supplies that she needs, and I could shop around a little bit as well. So I didn't really know what to expect because it said, you know, they don't really have a storefront. So I wondered, like, what is the stock going to look like? Like, where is it going to be? Am I going to be able to easily browse? But the setup is pretty good, actually. It's pretty storefronty, although very small. But she's got like a little she shed set up in her backyard with much of her stock back there. So lots of flosses, lots and lots of different fabric options, and so many patterns, lots of little knickknacks and things. So I'm trying to be good with buying things, but I did have a couple Nora Corbett patterns that I was looking for fabric for, so I purchased those. So I'll show you the two patterns. The first one is Floral Dream. And the second one is Moon Glow. These are both by Nora Corbett. And I've had them for a little while. I purchased them from the Stitch Bug in Moncton, New Brunswick. I've been wanting to stitch them, but I would like to hang them together somewhere. And I wanted to choose fabrics for them that would look a little bit more matchy than these two fabrics do. So what I did was I purchased this 32 count Mediterranean Sea fabric, which is, I believe, actually the called for fabric for Moon Glow. So that's going to be stitched on this. And then for Floral Dream, I got also a 32 count Lugana. Color is green, and that's what I'm going to stitch it on. So in this light, I might have to take some video footage of this because in this light these look quite similar, but this is green and this is sort of a regular tanny taupey color. So I think that these two colors complement each other a little bit better. And when I was there, they were saying, like, you know, you can make them look even more matchy-matchy by having maybe even like just the same mat and frame around them, or you could even have like this color mat on this piece and this color mat on this piece to kind of bring them together. So that is the plan. That is the plan for these two pieces. It's going to be a long time before I start either of these because I want to finish Ophelia before I start one of these. And I don't have any of the beads or silks to stitch these with, and that is going to be expensive. So, but that's something that I'll be able to slowly acquire. And I've got lots of time to do that. So those will be fun. Another thing that I bought at Charting Creations is some needles, and I am trying these bowhin needles for the first time. I've never tried them before, but I've heard that they are the best according to Charting Creations and to many Flosstubers as well. So trying these out. I'll be totally honest, I've used them a couple times already, and they're great little needles. However, I don't really notice that much of a difference between them and the DMC needles that I am used to using. So maybe I'm just not very picky, but I also really like them, and they're not that expensive. So, you know, I might go ahead and keep on using bowen needles. But they also had some John James and some pacemakers. So I might try a few different kinds. Like when I go in, just buy a pack of whatever needles I haven't tried yet. So that is about it for today's video. Thank you for sticking with me and listening to my crafty prattling. I really appreciate it. Definitely say hi in the comments if you would like to. And I will see you again probably in about a month.